curse you, I'm after you. First things first, I want to thank all of you for subscribing to my channel, subscribing to my Facebook page, CTP Know the Truth on Facebook. I thank you for subscribing and sharing my videos, sharing my posts. I ask you to continue to do so because quite honestly, this country is through the looking glass. Now, at the time I'm making this video, Sunday, June 12th, we finished the first day of, the opening of the arguments from the January 6th committee. Now, the thing is this, all the major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and most of the news networks, CNN, MSNBC, and others across the country showed the first night, except for, of course, Fox News. And we all know why. Because what they're about to uncover is going to implicate a lot of them, especially people like Sean Hannity and Lauren Ingraham, who actually texted the then White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, to get him to try to persuade Trump to stop his supporters from pushing the insurrection into the Capitol. But the person I want to talk about the most, obviously, is Tucker Carlson. Apparently, Tucker Carlson actually aired his Tucker Carlson Tonight program without commercial interruptions. And we all know why, because he was trying to grab ratings away from the January 6th. And by the way, a quick note about the ratings from the first night. Over 20 million, this is coming from the Nielsen Research Institute, mind you, 20 million people in this country watched the first night of the hearings. That's topping out against the NBA Finals and the NHL Conference Finals. So that should tell you something right now, that Americans are vestedly interested as to what happened on January 6th and the subsequent months before that. And more to the point, what the January 6th committee has actually uncovered in the time ahead. Now, I'm going to show you just the opening of what Tucker Carlson had to say. And quite honestly, it's pretty sickening. So, be forewarned.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. It tells you a lot about the priorities of our ruling class that the rest of us are getting yet another lecture about January 6th tonight from our moral inferiors, no less.
First thing, Tucker, moral inferiors, this coming from a guy who actually pushed a racist replacement theory that not 2 weeks ago, a madman citing that very same theory went into a Buffalo market and murdered 10 African Americans, citing your replacement theory. And not to mention the fact, Fox News, when in the world have they ever been moral for anything, for that matter? When exactly have you ever talked about morality, showed any kind of morality? You never have. And frankly, oh boy, I told you it was going to get bad. It's going to get bad. Again, be forewarned.
An outbreak of mob violence, a forgettably minor outbreak by recent standards that took place more than a year and a half ago, but they've never stopped talking about it.
A forgettable minor act of mob violence. You see the attack on the United States Capitol, the seat of our government, as minor, not a big deal. And use those words, recent standards. Recent standards. I'm assuming you're talking about the 2020 Summer of Love, right? I'm assuming that's what the recent standards you're talking about. See, the difference is the people who did those riots are being punished and have been punished. The people who attacked the U.S. Capitol are getting light sentences and are still to this day free, with the exception of the Proud Boys owner and the Oath Keepers chairman. Whoever, I forget their names. Anyway, see, we're not going to stop talking about it until everyone is involved in it is punished. That includes Donald Trump, his family, all the Republican senators and congressmen, not to mention half the clowns that you work with in Fox News. We're not going to stop talking about it until all of you are punished. Plain simple.
In the meantime, in the 18 months since January 6th, gas prices have doubled. Drug ODs have reached their highest point ever. The U.S. economy is now careening toward a devastating recession at best. And scariest and least noted of all, this country has never in its history been closer to a nuclear war.
But what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Yes, we are all thinking about what's going on in this country. We are talking about inflation, and it's making us sick to our stomachs. That money that oil companies are gouging Americans. Gas prices that people almost can't afford. We're talking about that, and we've done things to try to stop that. Your Republicans that you want to defend as the holy crusaders of the American people haven't done a damn thing to stop it, Tucker, and you know that. You know what? I'm going to stop calling you by your first name because, quite honestly, I don't like you. I don't know you. I'm not your best friend, Carlson. And that little, get out of here, B. And that little jab saying that America has never been this close to a nuclear war in its history, that shows to me that you don't know a damn thing about American history. So allow me to lecture you, if I may. In fact, you don't have a damn choice. For my viewers, I apologize for talking to you like you're stupid. You're not stupid, you're intelligent. You're watching this video, that means you're intelligent. But I'm going to give you this for the for Carlson and for the rest of his idiotic viewers who think they know, but they don't know anything. The year was 1961. The United States and the the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the former USSR, were on the brink of a nuclear war. The time was the fall of 61, the 13 days, otherwise known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. In short, the USSR forward deployed nuclear missiles off 90 miles off the United States shores in Cuba. We responded in the United States by imposing a naval blockade. The entire world was on edge, thinking that World War III was going to start right then, right there. The 13th day, both leaders, Nikita Khrushchev and President John F. Kennedy, negotiated their way out of the crisis by pulling American missiles out of Turkey. The Soviets would pull their missiles out of Cuba, and World War III nuclear war was averted. But we came pretty darn close to it. So Tucker, the next time you want to talk about American history, know what the hell you're talking about. Matter of fact, pick up a history book and read it. Or if you're too damn lazy to do it, like a lot of your lazy Republicans are, go to your video streaming service, or go to your library, get the DVD called 13 Days, starring Kevin Costner as Ken O'Donnell, one of the special advisors to the president, Bruce Greenwood as John F. Kennedy, the president of the United States at that time, and Stephen Cupp as Robert Kennedy, the Attorney General. But to say that we never came this close to a nuclear war in American history shows your ignorance of history. But then again, I am talking about Tucker Carlson, so what's to be surprised about?
Yet the other networks cannot be bothered to cover any of that tonight. Instead, they've interrupted their regularly scheduled programming to bring you yet another extended primetime harangue from Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney about Donald Trump and QAnon.
In case, Tucker, if you had bothered to actually watch what this thing was, they were laying out the evidence they found during the year and a half long investigation into the attack on January 6th. Now, unfortunately, as unfortunate as it is for you, that evidence leads directly to Donald Trump and his supporters, and to you at Fox News, and to you, especially to you, Tucker Carlson. It's about time you get to this idea that you're finished. The evidence is pointing straight at you, and you can't walk away from it. You can't try to change it. You can't you can't walk away from it, Tucker. It's on your heads, and it's going to be on your heads when this is over. Time to smell all the cornite, son. It's time for you to learn the truth. You're guilty. Your supporters are guilty. Your viewers are guilty for supporting the big lie. As you are guilty of pushing white replacement theory that got 10 innocent people killed. But that's an argument for later. Well, actually, we've already had that argument, so you're guilty on that. Moving on.
The whole thing is insulting. In fact, it's deranged, and we're not playing along. This is the only hour on an American news channel that will not be carrying their propaganda live. They are lying, and we are not going to help them do it.
It's funny to me that you try to throw yourself out as the moral voice. They're lying, and we're not going to help them do it. All you've done in your entire broadcast life, perhaps your entire damn life, is lie. You've lied over and over and over and over again. Tucker, you went on one of your videos on Twitter and said, "I'm a liar, you shouldn't trust me." Fox News themselves said this is an entertainment channel, not a news channel. So, what kind of moral stance are you trying to take? But it just keeps getting worse. It's pretty bad.
What we will do instead is to try to tell you the truth. We've attempted to do that since the day this happened. We hated seeing vandalism at the U.S. Capitol a year and a half ago, and we said so at the time. But we did not think it was an insurrection because it was not an insurrection. It was not even close to an insurrection.
Okay, I'm going to stop the clips there. You don't think it was an insurrection. So let's look at the definition of insurrection real quick. By definition, insurrection is, and I quote, a violent uprising against an authority or government. And you don't think what happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 was an insurrection? Those people attacked the U.S. Capitol in an uprising against the government because a man who lost an election told them to do so. Now, you say you hate seeing violence, yet you're the ones who encouraged that violence. Despite the fact that you at Fox News, Lauren Ingraham and Sean Hannity, I'm talking about, tried to stop the violence in your own little way. But honestly, you didn't do anything, Tucker. You just made the situation 10 times worse. Every time, ever since the election of 2020 was decided in favor of Joe Biden, you at Fox News continued to push that same lie that the election was rigged, that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. You are just as guilty of what happened on January 6th as the people who actually perpetrated that attack. Now, I'm not going to show you anything else about that little hour of power of his, because quite honestly, it's stupid. It's disgusting. It's full of conspiracy theories that would probably pass the QAnon test, but not the reality test. Now, everyone wants to talk. These people in the Republican Party, especially at Fox News, want to talk about the 2020 riots trying to be even worse than January 6th. I think they were both bad, but I understand one while condemning the other. What happened in 2020 was a reaction after seeing an African American man being murdered on national television. No, well, actually not live, but you get the point. The tape was leaked. We all saw what happened. And another example of a black man being murdered by law enforcement unjustly, unfairly. Now, do I condone what happened then? No, I don't, but I understand it. January 6th happened because Donald John Trump screamed the election was stolen from me. He screamed for it about that for years before the election took place, that the only way that he would lose the election if it was stolen. And Fox News, you, Tucker Carlson, helped him push that idea. So no, you're not innocent of this at all. You might want to act like a innocent baby, but the facts are this: you are guilty of it. And this idea that you're going to stop, you're not going to show any of this and anything like that. You're not going to show the hearings. So what? We're all going to see the hearings. We're all going to watch them, and we're all going to watch what happens when you fall. The next hearing date is tomorrow, June 13th, and one of the witnesses that will be called to talk is a former Fox News staffer. And he's going to spill all the beans, all of it, under oath. And one of those names, I pray to God, one of those names that is going to be mentioned is yours, Tucker. What exactly are you trying to prove? Are you trying to prove we stay in the good graces of Donald Trump? Because it's not worth it. Because sooner or later, he will stab you in the back, too. Are you trying to say that Donald Trump, you're doing this because you're a true believer in Donald Trump? Because it's not going to work. In the end of the day, Tucker Carlson is responsible also for what happened on January 6th. For weeks after the election was called for Joe Biden, he's been screaming and pushing the big lie of January 6th. Well, guess what? The big lie is going to be turned upside down by the bigger truth. That you, Donald Trump, the Republican Party, his family, everyone at Fox News had a hand in what happened on January 6th. And one way or another, one day or the other, you're going to be called to atone. Now, I said I wasn't going to show you any more clips from Tucker Carlson's Power Hour, but there is something that I think everyone needs to know about what happened during that hour. Tucker invited a hardcore white supremacist named Darren J. Beadle. He was a former staffer with Donald Trump until he was fired because he attended a white supremacist rally. And he hasn't learned from his mistakes. During the hour, he was going off against some sort of paranoid delusion that Homeland Security is trying to take over the government, take over special interest groups, destroy the Proud Boys, blah, 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 yak, yak, yak. But he had a small hand in January 6th, too. These are tweets that he tweeted on January the 6th during the attack. And they're racist, but they're all directed at black people. The first, obviously, is against Black Lives Matter. BLM must take a knee to MAGA. They must learn their place. And it goes on like this. It's against individual people. Jabram Kadei needs to learn his place and take a knee to MAGA, learn his proper role in society. Now, before I go on, what exactly are you talking about when it comes to our role in society? Are we talking about slavery? Because that ain't never coming back. And we will fight another war to make sure it doesn't come back. Right. But going on, J. Cole James of the Heritage Foundation, a staunch conservative, he's on their side, says she needs to learn her place, her natural place, and take a knee to MAGA. All right. And as much as I don't like the guy, he goes off against Tim Scott, a black senator from South Carolina. He said, and the thing that's what gets me, these guys are on your side. And you're going off against him about this? Anyway, he tells him Tim Scott needs to learn his place and take a knee to MAGA. Of course, MAGA being Make America Great Again. I'm just wondering, B, what place are you talking about? As slaves? Not gonna happen, boy. Not gonna happen. But my whole point is this. Tucker Carlson wants to piss and moan about the truth actually being uncovered by the January 6th committee now being made public. That over 20 million people in this country took an interest in watching. But the only way you fight back is to invite a white supremacist on your show? Tucker, you're not helping yourself. And it's just making things worse for you. In closing, I want to say this. Now, a friend of mine on Facebook gave me this, and he has some very good points in it. Now, I actually touched on this earlier, so forgive me if I'm rehashing this. I've heard a lot of people saying the BLM protesters were ignored by the January 6th committee. Actually, I saw something like that from Truth Social, from Eric Trump, Beavis, tweeted about that. Anyway, there are two very different situations. The first BLM protests were peaceful. African Americans and other Americans were frustrated and fed up with police assaulting and murdering unarmed Black Americans and not facing consequences. The people who caused the property damage and destruction were arrested and faced justice. I would never condone violence, but I had every right to be angry. January 6th was incited by an American president and his lies. January 6th was a bunch of far-right conspiracy and hate groups throwing a tantrum and purposely causing violence. January 6th was an act of insurrection and treason. BLM protesters who broke the law faced justice, and many of those involved with January 6th are either still free or facing lighter sentences. So my question for you, Tucker Carlson, for you, Republican Party, for you, Trump supporters, for you, right-wing nut jobs who are going to cheat to try to win the 2022 midterms and the 2024 elections, but that's a video for later on. My question is this. Is this fair justice? Ignore one while trying to float fire on the other? No, it's not. But we're going to get justice, one way or another. Donald Trump will never become president of the United States ever again. And if he does, this country will burn. And it's not going to be the Democrats or the Democrats or even the Republicans who do it. It will be Donald Trump and his supporters who light the match, just as they did on January 6, 2021. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.